Chapter 17. Missed you again, but it was for the best since you couldn't come with me through the tub. You'll have to drive to my house. This was a vetting process anyway, but I feel like I know you well enough to trust you. You seem like a good guy. When you're ready, come to 614 Rose of Sharon Road, Cleburne. Please come alone. Thanks, Mellor. Adam found the note lying on his chest when he woke up and had read it 5 times. According to his clock, he'd only been knocked out for 5 minutes, barely long enough for Mellor to find pen and paper to write the note in the first place. And now he was on his way to Rose of Sharon Road. He'd looked up the address after reading the note and saw it was located in the country, an hour away. It was in the opposite direction of Dallas, in an area Adam rarely visited. He'd been near Cleburne once, months ago, to watch Kendall in a play, Kendall being not only an indie film connoisseur, but also a stage actor. Other than that, Adam was unfamiliar with the area. He drove slowly on the snow and ice-covered freeway, not because he wanted to, but because everyone else was driving cautiously. If Adam had had his way, he would have been driving 10 miles over the speed limit. He'd read the note several times and wondered why Mellor would think of him as a good guy without talking to him first. He had been planning to brain him or her with a bat, after all. A thought flitted past his mind for a brief second after his second or third read-through. It was a ridiculous thought, but considering how ridiculous all of this was, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. What if Mellor was Tabret? The old woman had shown up to orientation and then mysteriously left before signing any paperwork. Why had she been there in the first place? She'd even called him a good guy, the same as Mellor had on the note. This possibility was the only reason Adam was driving out to the middle of nowhere without backup or protection. He'd left the bat at home. If Tabret was Mellor, how was she doing this? How was she traveling through time and space via water? It was impossible, defied the laws of physics. Or so he thought. He'd failed physics in college. Perhaps she simply found a way to do it. Wow, he was already thinking of Mellor as she. After spending 20 minutes in one spot on the annoyingly cluttered I-35, he finally broke out of the jam and was freely driving to his mysterious destination. He found he grew more excited as he took the many long, forest-lined highways. He was getting closer, ever closer. Unfortunately, the closer he got to the house, the weaker his phone's signal became. He got off the main highway and onto a much smaller one. He passed a few houses that were spaced far apart, as well as a ma-and-pop store that sat at an intersection at the top of a hill. This was such a departure to the cities he was used to that he felt like he was in a different country altogether. With that thought, he suddenly felt very alone, as if he actually were in a different country. He had a dream once where he was traveling through Canada, alone, and though he was taking pictures and sharing them on Facebook, he was still acutely aware of the fact he was alone. He even cried in that dream, and for some reason, crying in dreams always feels strange. Every time Adam cried in dreams, he felt like a floodgate of emotions opened. He wasn't much of a crier in reality, but he knew it wasn't the same. He gasped when his phone told him to take a sharp left a few seconds later. The GPS told him to go straight into the woods there. He saw a slight parting of trees and a barely there path on the ground. He drove slowly and saw that the path went straight for a while, perhaps half a mile. It was just wide enough for 2-lane traffic, but the snow was undisturbed. No one had driven through here today. Halfway down, the forest opened on the left, and Adam was treated to a field lined with giant electric towers. On his right was a hill. He tried to see what was at the top, but couldn't, so he kept driving. Not long past the towers, the path curved to the right and up the hill. He then experienced hydroplaning, where he feared he would slide down to the bottom. But he managed to get to the top, where he saw a single manufactured home. It was small and very linear, and it seemed more like a large shed. Adam parked next to an old white station wagon on the other side of the yard and then got out slowly. His phone told him he'd reached his destination. Even if he hadn't, he would have known. Standing on the cinder block stairs that led up to the front door stood Tabrit. Adam couldn't even feign surprise. He did stop in the middle of the yard and stare at her, though. "You're Meller?" he asked simply. "It's my maiden name." She wore a black t-shirt and faded jeans, along with her trademark navy cap. "So, you're a time traveler?" Adam asked. "Come inside. I'll explain everything."